Hello and good morning. Today we're going to be making Disney princess foods for 24 hours. For those of you who have been following along for the past couple of years, you might remember the first Disney princess foods video I did 4 years ago. There was Mulan's congee, Tiana's gumbo, Belle's French souffle. I had so much fun putting that video together, and I also feel like there are still a lot of meals that we can explore together. So I thought we were long overdue for a part 2. That's what we'll be doing today. It is bright and early, 8 a.m. in the morning. Let's dive straight in with some breakfast. So for breakfast today, I actually wanted to feature a very special Disney princess. Princess Vanellope from the Sugar Rush Kingdom in Wreck-It Ralph. I'm not sure how official her royalty status is in Disney's books, but she does have that one scene in the sequel where she introduces herself as Princess Vanellope von Schweetz of the Von Schweetz, and the other Disney princesses seem to agree, so there we have it. The breakfast of choice though, it is this gorgeous stack of pancakes that is actually featured in the mid-credits scene, and you see Princess Vanellope pushing this giant cart of pancakes in, and they just continuously feed this bunny until it, well, meets its demise, I suppose. They look so perfect. I just want to see if we're able to recreate that. Let me show you what I have. So here's what I have for our pancake today. I have some butter, 2 eggs, maple syrup, and some whole milk. The most important thing though is this boxed hot cake mix. I was originally gonna make the pancakes from scratch, but then I remembered I had this sitting in the pantry. I bought this on my trip to Tokyo a couple months ago. I mean, this looks almost exactly like what you see in the movie. I figured we'd give this a try. The instructions are in Japanese though, so I shall Google Translate and we'll make this pancake batter. I need a total of 5 pancakes, so I'm gonna go in with the entire box. Make a little hole in there, add in the eggs, milk. Now to mix it all together should be very straightforward. Most of it really is just about getting that perfect shape, like something straight out of a computer game. This is what it's looking like. Don't want to over mix it too much. Here it is, our pancake batter. Smells good. Smells like delicious pancake batter. Let's go make these. A little nervous. Thin little layer of oil. The trick now is to make sure all round and perfect. Please, please, please. Nerve-wracking for no reason. Alright. I say, I normally don't freak out over pancakes, but I feel like this is high stakes today. And now to flip it. What did I say? Look at that color. That's what I was hoping for. Dare I say, this is a great start. Now to try and make the next 5 in the same way. Okay, took a while to get them all made, but here we have these round pancakes. Now to stack them up and make them look exactly like they do in the film. Starting with the bottom one, the second one, third, fourth, last one. Ooh, that is a giant stack of pancakes. That's pretty crazy. Okay, I did try to make them as even as possible. Pancakes are good. Now to put the slice of butter on top. Just right on top like that. Oh, honestly, looking pretty insane, and I love it. Now for the final touch, our maple syrup. I feel like they did this crisscross situation. Oh my goodness, look at this drippage. I have no idea how I'm gonna be able to eat this. We're just going to give this a try. This stack of pancakes is so tall, I can't even fit me and the pancakes together in one frame. This is crazy. This is a 5 pancake skewer. This is me trying to fit 5 pancakes into one bite. I only managed to get 4. And we're just gonna try to fit it all in. I mean, the bunny was able to eat all 5 at once, so. You know, I will say it is very good. I love pancakes, I love hot cakes, and this version is extra fluffy, but this is like trying to eat an entire 5-layer cake by myself. I don't even know how many he ate in the end. No wonder he exploded. Much respect for the bunny. I'm gonna need some time to digest. All right, it is about 12 noonish now, and I'm back to make us some lunch. And for today's lunch, I will be making the kalua pork from Moana. If you guys remember, there is this montage of Moana's first day as, you know, chief of the island, and she goes around checking on people, including this one scene where she tastes a little bit of this pork bowl and in the process upsets her pet pig. But just like a lot of you, I was intrigued by this bowl of kalua pork, so sorry Pua, we will be making this pork bowl today. So I've never made kalua pork before, but it sounds delicious. It is a traditional Hawaiian dish that features slow-cooked shredded pork. And I believe the traditional way to do this is to actually cook an entire pig in an imu, which is almost like nature's underground oven. Because I don't have access to that though, I will just be using my home oven, but I'm going to try to find ways to replicate that like smoky, earthy flavor. And so with the help of this family recipe that I found, this is how I got started on the pork yesterday. So the first thing I have here is my pork shoulder, which I'm just cutting into half because it's quite a big slab. And just to give it a little more flavor, I'm actually trying to cut these little slits into the pork shoulder so I can then press my garlic cloves into each little cut here. The reasoning is so that the garlic can help flavor the pork from inside out. Once all the garlic's in there, I'm just browning the pork, so just cooking the sides here, giving it like a nice bit of color. This should also, again, just help it develop some deeper flavor. And now for the most important part, which is to wrap the pork in banana leaves. It took me a while to hunt these down, but I eventually found them. I feel like this is probably the most important ingredient in this recipe, since this is how I hear they actually prepare the traditional version as well. And even just smelling this leaf on its own, it already has this sort of like rich, earthy flavor, which is what we're hopefully going to transfer to the pork. And then the next thing I did was to season the pork with some salt and also some liquid smoke. And so this is what's really going to help me mimic the earthy, smoky flavor of the traditional imu. They do say not to hold back, so I'm putting it on quite generously and really just like rubbing the seasoning in. So even though my leaves are tearing up a little bit, I'm just trying to wrap it up as best as I can. So now I'm just trying to tuck it in snugly into my Dutch oven, pour in some chicken stock. So once the pot is covered, now I can transfer it to the oven. And I just let this cook on low heat for around like 3 hours, maybe even more. Really just waiting until the pork is fall apart tender. So this is what it looks like after a couple hours in the oven. It is very, very soft at this point. Just makes my job really easy to kind of shred it into bite-sized pieces, kind of like how we do with pulled pork, right? I'm adding a little more liquid smoke, and that brings us to today, where I have my kalua pork here. It kind of smells a little bit like bacon, I think because of the liquid smoke. So you can imagine if you like that kind of flavor, this is gonna be real good. I also made some rice over here, some jasmine rice. So I'm going to try and just serve it up in a giant bowl. I'm trying to find a bowl that looks like the one in the film. I feel like I only have a super small one and a super big one, so I guess we're doing this family style. In goes my rice. Definitely family style portion. I'm really just going to try to pile this on. It does smell so good though. Putting all of it, juice included. Sprinkle of scallion just all around. And there it is, our beautiful Moana inspired pork bowl. In the movie you see him just holding this out and she QC's it. I hope Moana will also approve of my version, but I'm actually so excited to dig into this. Woo, it smells so delicious, like it's making my mouth water. There will definitely be leftovers, but I feel like if you like pulled pork or braised pork, there's no way you're not gonna love this. Here we go. That smoky flavor, I know we could already smell it, but you definitely taste it. And I feel like this is why they say the banana leaves are so important, because you do taste that kind of earthiness underneath the smokiness of it all. The pork is so tender, so juicy. All that time it's spent just slowly cooking in its own juices in the oven, it pays off. You could go really far on a day's journey with this in your system. So glad we finally got to make this. So good. Whew. While I'm taking a breather and before we continue, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to our sponsor for today, Bombas, my favorite sock brand, my favorite partner ever. If you've been following along, you already know how much I love them and how almost all of my socks come exclusively from Bombas because of just how comfortable they are. I love how they feel. It's been really hot lately, so I've actually been wearing a lot of their ankle socks. And also because it's cute, I've been wearing these frilly socks, which I feel like is very appropriate for today's princess theme. I actually think Bombas had some Disney princess themed socks a while ago. I hope they bring them back. They were really cute. But also when I went on their website yesterday, guess what I found? These super cute farmer's market socks. There's a lemon one, a cherry one. I wasn't gonna get anything new, but now I feel like I have to because I am a sucker for cute little embroidered things on the clothes I wear. And as always with Bombas, every pair purchased is a pair donated, so you can feel good and do good with them knowing that your purchase is doing some good out there. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com and use my code INGALAM at checkout. You might see me wearing those cute fruit socks in the next video. Now back to our magical adventure. All right, it is 6 p.m. and it is dinner time. And the soup of the day today is Mother Gothel's hazelnut soup from Tangle. This was probably the most highly requested item when I mentioned I was going to be making Disney princess foods. It makes sense. I think we're all fascinated by it because Mother Gothel did say that this is Rapunzel's favorite soup, so much so that it is actually birthday surprise worthy. Even just that alone makes me feel like this is worth a try. We need to know what the hype is about. Now again, even though she calls it hazelnut soup, the only step that we see of her preparing this is when she's taking parsnips out of her basket. So safe to say, parsnips have to be a feature in this soup. I also feel like there's going to be a lot of nutrient heavy vegetables because, you know, Mother Gothel wants her sweet baby to grow up as healthily as possible. For selfish reasons, mind you. And of course, also some aromatics to give it that flavor, make it addictive. So with all that said, this is what I ended up putting together to make the soup. There's parsnips here, of course, and hazelnut. I also have a butternut squash to add, you know, a nice bit of creaminess and a bunch of aromatics. There's leeks, wild rams, shallots, garlic, and apple. This is pretty much to channel Mother Gothel kind of foraging these in the middle of nowhere. So then, starting with the butternut squash, since I do have to roast them for a while until soft, all I'm doing is just cutting them in half, taking out the seeds, and drizzling some oil before popping them in the oven to slow roast. And so while that's going, I'm prepping my other vegetables here, starting first with these beautiful parsnips. All I'm doing is just peeling and chopping them into rough chunks. And also, if you've never had parsnips before, they're kind of like carrots' sweeter, nuttier cousin. So now same thing again too, chopping up the rest of the aromatics and the apple. I'm gonna be blending up all of this eventually, so it really doesn't matter if the chunks are looking a little rustic. So once I have all of my vegetables cut up into the pot, the aromatics go first, with a little bit of olive oil and some butter. I'm just letting these cook down until they get soft and the kitchen starts smelling real nice. Bit of browning, so this is when I'm deglazing with some vegetable broth. And again, just staying with the vegetarian theme. I feel like that's on brand for Rapunzel. So now I can add in the parsnips and also the apples. Also where I add in my herbs, my spices, so just a bay leaf or two, some thyme, and some black pepper. Now while all this is going, I've also been trying to roast and skin my hazelnuts. And as someone who has never really worked with hazelnuts in this capacity before, this part, especially the skinning, takes so much time and effort. I eventually had to use Julia Child's method of blanching them first just to get that skin off. And I just want to say, as awful as a Mother Gothel is, I have to admit she really put in the effort. She did what she had to do to get what she wanted. So now the hazelnuts can finally go in, and I can just let all of this cook down until the parsnips are fork tender. So then this is the part where I can add in our roasted butternut squash, just scooped right in there. Let that cook all together just a little bit more, and finally I can blend it all together. I decided to start first with my favorite immersion blender. The end result was a little lumpier than I'd like though, so I'm just transferring everything to my blender at this point and blending it more until it's silky smooth. And look at that color. It's like liquid gold. Dare I say, as golden as Rapunzel's magical hair? So now I have this beautiful golden puree. I am going to just do that final step of transforming this into a bowl of creamy soup, and we can plate it up. So all I'm doing really is just to add some milk in here for that extra little bit of creaminess. It's very, very thick, but it is so much creamier now, isn't it? I was gonna season a little bit more, but I actually feel like the flavor is really good already. Out here and ready to give this a try. If I was imprisoned in a tower somewhere, is this going to bring me joy? It's the question I'd like to answer. You know what? When I was testing the puree, I already gave it a try. It was already creamy then, but that added milk really adds another layer of richness. Like, it now feels almost like buttery smooth, you know, kind of like when you have cream of mushroom soup, cream of broccoli, but without the heaviness of heavy cream. It's also obviously very earthy, very nutty. You do taste the hazelnut, but there is that lingering sweetness, which I feel like again is coming from the apple and the parsnips. You know, I get it now. I was skeptical at first. I was like, what kind of teenage girl would like vegetable soup? But when you do it this way, I can honestly see it working. Let's try this with bread. Look at how it just clings to the bread like a beautiful sauce. Oh yeah, this is the way. This would bring me joy. Trapped somewhere in a castle. Maybe even make this into mac and cheese. Mother Gothel, you guys. She's onto something. Almost at the end of today, but we have one last thing on the menu, and that is dessert, for which I have prepared a pie in advance, the gooseberry pie from Snow White. Kind of crazy how this movie actually came out almost a century ago, 1937. You might remember that one scene where Snow White is making a pie, specifically gooseberry pie. It's like this green colored pie. Also, obviously, because it's Snow White, she has all sorts of little critters and animals helping her out. The birds honestly do an amazing job. We never fully see it baked because the Wicked Witch comes and poisons her with the apple. Spoiler alert! I did try really hard to find fresh gooseberries around here, but apparently it's just not that common anymore. So what I ended up finding instead that was the best alternative are these canned gooseberries. They have also shrunken in size a little bit because they've been cooked a little bit in syrup. You can see that this is kind of what it looks like now. It's no longer as green and vibrant, but even when it's covered in syrup, it's still very, very tart. It's almost like a crossover between a cranberry and a grape. So this is what I'm using to make my pie. Given that I don't have cute little animals to help me out, I baked this in advance yesterday. So because these gooseberries are already kind of like cooked down a little bit, they're already very tender, I'm not cooking them anymore. All I really did was just to drain the gooseberries, so just running them through the strainer, so then I get all that like good syrup left. And this is what I'm going to use to make like a thicker sauce. So all of this syrup, this juice, goes into a saucepan, which Because it's still kind of sour, I'm adding in a bunch of sugar. Still adding a squeeze of lemon juice though, just for a little bit of brightness. Pinch of salt, and then to thicken it, I'm adding in some cornstarch. So then I'm really just letting this cook until it reaches about this consistency, much thicker now. So then to this, I'm adding in some butter, also a little bit of vanilla and cinnamon, you know, to get that nice warm pie straight out of the oven scent. And then this is when I add the gooseberries back in. So then once that's all ready to go, I'm just pouring that straight into my pie plate. Really trying to like fill it up as much as I can so Grumpy won't be unhappy. Then this is when I added on the top crust. And again, Snow White just does it so beautifully, just one stroke, and the pie crust is like perfectly neat. Can't say mine was as perfect, but I did my best. Same thing with crimping the pie crust. The little birdies go in with their tiny feet and make this like nice crisscross pattern. Again, I really wanted to mimic that pattern, but my tweezers couldn't really get the job done. So I'm just going out with my fork and sealing the edges here. Also cutting some vents in that same style of just like what our baker birds did. And then the last part, which I think is the hardest part, is to make the Grumpy signage on top. I can barely write cursive as it is, and now I have to write cursive with pie crust. It is not easy, but I gave it my best shot. You know, I pretty much only had one take, and this is what I ended up with. Can you tell that it says Grumpy? Please say yes. So now, just like this, off into the oven it goes, and that brings us to today. Let me go get the pie. Ta-da! What do you think? Can you see it? Can you see the Grumpy? I'm actually so happy with how this came out. I also tried to put a layer of butter on top with some little bit of extra on the words to hopefully get it to come out nicer, and I think it did the trick. I can now proudly say that I write in cursive, maybe exclusively in pie crust. Ooh, it does smell very buttery though. So I let this chill in the fridge overnight. Now that it's dessert time, I think we're ready to cut into it. Maybe. There we go. Here it is. You can see all the little bit of gooseberries still intact, actually. As the Wicked Witch says, it is not quite the same as apple pie, but Grumpy will appreciate, given Snow White's efforts. When you live deep in the forest, you make do with what you can get. Let's give this a try. Oh my gosh. It almost tastes like sour plum. Or I guess another way to say it would be like, you know, like sour candy. There is that like tang there, but there's also sweetness. Yeah, the texture is like blueberry pie, I want to say. In little berry form, it's juicy, with a little bit of buttery in between. Okay, I see the vision. So I'm sure Grumpy would have appreciated her efforts if it ever got baked. Ooh, my mouth is still puckering from that pie, but that brings us to the end of 24 hours of Disney princess foods. We honestly went through a lot today, and there were a lot of different cuisines featured. Also kind of crazy to see how we really just went through different eras, and I had a lot of fun going down memory lane. Would love to know if you had a favorite from today, or if you have a favorite Disney princess or Disney princess food that I haven't featured yet. Would love to make that dream come true. But yes, as always, remember to like and subscribe if you want to enjoy more of this content. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.